Here to talk to you about coronavirus, some of the other things I've come up with, a few other techniques, a few other treatments, my status, a few other things. I'm on I think it's day 48 now, and I am still here. I'm still alive. I'm still healthy. I feel good right now. This camera is just kind of not very well. So I, was feeling I'm feeling really good right now, and I'm doing good today. And days vary. My days do vary. So like some days are um, better than others, but for the most part, for 3 weeks, what happened was I never had any symptoms. I was basically, for the most part, I was basically asymptomatic. I had, for 3 weeks after doing my nebulization MCT oil treatment, and that's all I did. I wasn't touching colloidal silver or anything else. Well, actually, I was doing other things, but you know, their effect on the lung is minimal at best. I was doing monolaurin and red algae and green tea extract and bromelain and quercetin and stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is the only thing that seemed to have some bit of an effect on the lung, and that was the first time I used it after I didn't feel it so much in the lung. But all of those combined and everything, didn't matter what I did. The only things that really seemed to help my lung the most was vitamin C and that MCT oil. Um, was really, really helpful. Those things really cleared everything up. And so I was fine from day 23 to day 40. And then suddenly on day 40, I had this pain suddenly show up in my lungs and in my back. It felt like kind of like my kidneys, but it was higher between my shoulder blades more than lower down. Uh, I don't even know if it's my kidneys, to be honest. It's like it feels like it's about right here on my back right now. A little bit. There's something going on a little bit lower too, but it's at the bottom of my shoulder blades right now. Sometimes it's up between my shoulder blades in the back. It's a very strange pain, uh, but it's been going on since for a couple of weeks anyway. Um, I don't know what's going on. Maybe the genome's adapting to this virus, to this 5G, and it's helping the body to adjust and change um, to these frequencies. That's what I suspect is happening. And anyway, so I was, like I said, I was good from day 23 to day 40, and suddenly I got hit really hard, and my lungs started to hurt just as bad as they did at my worst peak during day 20, 21, somewhere in there. Even day 23 actually was probably my worst until I started inhaling that oil. And then that oil just really knocked all the pain out. And I did pray, like there's a lot of other things I did, which, if you believe, if you have faith and you have certitude in what you believe, your conviction in what you believe, probably have results. And my prayers seem to also help with my uh, issues quite a bit, like amazingly so. And so I'm trying to find something to help everyone because I know not everybody is spiritual in that regard. Some people are use physical means for healing, and some people use metaphysical, and I think all of it is smart and it's all useful. So I'd recommend people try keeping an open mind and try a little bit of everything. And a lot of people who weren't religious or spiritual before coming to near death, will certainly change in their worst, their darkest hour. But so my lungs were hurting really bad. I was feeling it, so I started doing nebulizing MCT oil, and I sat there for like 45 minutes, an hour, working on it, and it didn't seem to get very far. It didn't seem to help me like it used to as much. Um, Although I did have moments here and there where I was nebulizing it, or days here and there, where I was nebulizing MCT oil, and it didn't matter how much I did. It helped a little, but it didn't help a lot. But the next day, everything went away anyway. And then basically it all disappeared for like 3 weeks. I had no pains. I just had this weird sensation in my lung that was like gross. It was like gooey and it was like dormant. And I thought, is this scar tissue or is this the virus sitting there kind of in a dormant state? Did this oil knock it out but not like kill it? So there's some of it left maybe in the lung. Um, so anyway, this went on. And by day 47 was probably one of my worst days as well. Although there was very little pain. Actually, there was a lot of pain in the lung and in the back and in my liver. It was day 47. It hit me like a truck. I went to bed and I woke up at 3 in the morning, bright and alert. I couldn't fall asleep because the pain was just so amazing. It was amazing. I've never experienced anything quite like that. I had to transcend thought, mind and pain and over matter. Like I had to transcend the pain through mind over matter and just by not running from it but facing it and not trying to feel sorry for myself or anything like that. I had to face it and just integrate it by basically by allowing myself to look at it right in the eye and just not fear it and not run from it, not panic, and just affirm deep down in my soul that I'm bigger than this. And that's the only thing I could do at the time, or I did for a while. And then things got really, to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go try something. Some of the things I got, I got this bottle of Wolbenzyme, which is one of the world's most powerful anti-inflammatories. Very expensive though. It's like $200 for the bottle I bought. But I thought, like, yeah, Canadian, right? So it was 120 US. And I thought, well, my lungs are hurting really bad, and I don't want that pain anymore. I thought because, in the hospitals in Germany, if you get hit by a truck or something, they'll put you on 50 of those. And usually you'll end up waking up the next day and you're basically back on your feet, because it helps speed up repairing of your tissues in your body. It helps speed up, helps protect the body against inflammation, autoimmune, and it also helps with, it's a powerful antiviral as well. It has so many different qualities to it. And just look in the video description, see it there. A guy talking about it who knows about this stuff better than anyone. So I ended up basically taking 30 pills of them, and I downed those, and then kicked in after about an hour, and oh my god, it felt really good. It was just everything chilled out. My lungs chilled out. The pain in my back really went away. A lot of the symptoms I was feeling went away. And I'm just sitting there and I'm wondering, like, what's going on? Is this just the effect of the long-term effect of the virus? Oh, here it is. So the worst hit coronavirus survivors could be left with lung damage that takes up to 15 years to heal. Like, that's crazy. So, I was looking at that and I thought to myself, maybe that's what I'm feeling in my lung. Maybe I killed that virus because I have no fever. I have these other weird sensations though, and it's very strange. And it's in my lower lung cavity, and it's gooey, and it's like, or it's like gas. It feels like gaseous exchange is blocked. It feels like right in here, just this blockage, this huge weight of energy, sour feeling, tasting, not tasting, but a sour feeling, gaseous like uh, blockage right in this lung. And sometimes it bubbles out. It just kind of bubbles away, and it just poof, 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 goes away for a little while. And I'm like, weird, okay. I have found, and I've done the research, and I've learned that basically this coronavirus does the exact same thing to your hemoglobin that 5G does. Surprise, surprise. I haven't heard anyone talking about this yet, but I have here. So let's see how much we can get the word out. So COVID-19, coronavirus, and hemoglobin. Why do we have an abnormal hemoglobin-related biochemical incidences in the COVID-19 patients? Viruses require, okay, the novel coronavirus targets hemoglobin, attacks heme, and hurts paraffins. And if we look down here, the attack of oxidized hemoglobin by viral, which is COVID-19, proteins leads to less and less hemoglobin that can carry oxygen. The invasion of the viral proteins on deoxytized hemoglobin will cause less and less hemoglobin that can carry out carbon dioxide. So it blocks the gaseous exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen throughout the body, which hinders organ function, which creates basically a state of anemia. Now, anemia is basically a decrease in the total amount of blood cells or hemoglobin in the blood. So it's basically COVID-19 attacks the beta-1 chain of hemoglobin. Okay, so basically it's doing what this 5G has been, as I suggested in other videos, and as was brought before Congress here in this video.
The technology that's coming is going to be broadcasting at 60 gigahertz. That is the absorption spectrum of oxygen molecules. There are instances where 60 gigahertz systems have been deployed in the United States, and it is a weaponized system. You don't mess with oxygen molecules.
That's what it's doing.
30 days without food, you're going to be really skinny and probably dead. 3 days without water, you know what happens. A very short amount of time without air, and it's lights out meatball for all metabolic processes in a human body and all other life forms as we know them. What happens at the molecular level when you have oxygen molecules being hit with radio frequency emissions at 60 gigahertz, which you think is fine, and you don't understand what this stuff does, and I'm glad you're going to be recusing yourself from all the votes, is it affects the orbital properties of the electrons and the hemoglobin's ability to bind the oxygen molecules. And the hemoglobin's ability to bind the oxygen molecules. And the hemoglobin's ability to bind the oxygen molecules.
So what is this COVID-19 doing? COVID-19 attacks the beta-1 chain of hemoglobin and it hinders the hemoglobin's ability to carry out oxygen and for your body to get rid of carbon dioxide. So there it is. There's some scientific, undeniable scientific connection there that basically is, in my opinion, it's just more fielded the hypothesis and the theories that I had presented in my previous videos that 5G is responsible for the creation of this, or basically what this virus is a mirror response. It is like a Mother Nature's response to 5G and its antagonism against the various metabolic processes in the body. And the virus is basically, you know, that we have like the 5G is attacking the body from the outside, and the virus is doing basically the same thing from the inside of the body. And it is basically a mirror response, and it's helping, I believe, the genome to adapt to the antagonism that is brought on because of these frequencies. And so there's, I mean, is science going to be able to figure that out? Does science have the capacity to understand these intricacies of nature and the biological ramifications of 5G and the response of the systems? Well, they're not even bothering to research. I mean, at least the industry isn't bothering to research the damage that is taking place, but certain doctors, certain scientists have. There's tens of thousands of studies and research documents that corroborate and show the dangers of 5G and other EMF technology. It's all out there. It's all well known. It is just all you need to do is research and look it up, and you'll understand all these things. It's there. So basically, but the industries and the FDA and all these other organizations who are responsible for institutionalizing and making 5G part of a, you know, like a civilization, making it, regulating it and allowing it and ensuring that it's legally safe and all these things and safe for the body and safe. You know, they're not doing any of these things. They're not doing any studies. They're not hiring any independent research. They're just calling it all a hoax and fake, so they can push this multi-trillion-dollar industry on the planet, on all of life forms, on human beings, despite all of the warnings and despite the fact that people who are pushing it are basically going to be screwed. You know, it's really it's really a Darwinian and kamikaze and suicidal move on their behalf because nobody is safe. Now this virus has been mutating as well, um, and so basically suggesting that there is not going to be a vaccine. There's no way for a vaccine to work. Iceland finds 40 coronavirus mutations causing fears of new pandemic prospects. So it might become more contagious, less dangerous over time. So that's good news, partially good news. And the bad news is that there may not be a vaccine. You know, it may be very difficult to vax because if Iceland's got 40 mutations, that would suggest that there's potentially thousands of mutations all around the world. So, I mean, something to keep an open mind about. So like I say, you know, it was day 27. I was feeling it in my lung. I was feeling it in my gut. I'm feeling like this oxygen and carbon dioxide isn't able to flow in my body that well. I mean, that's what I felt. I'm like, what is this sensation? I'm on day 47, by the way. I have no fever, other symptoms. I'm feeling good in my mind, but my body is telling me, "Ow, this is hurting. Things aren't functioning." I woke up yesterday like I had anemia. I'd never been that tired in my life. I was so wasted. Um, First, I woke up at 3 in the morning. I was hurting like hell. I couldn't function. I downed 30 Wobenzym to stop the inflammation and the pain in my body. And then I eventually fell asleep and it knocked me out. And then when I woke up at noon or so the next many hours later, I felt so tired. It was crazy. Like I felt like I could barely even open my eyes, and yet I had this desire, this need to want to get up and function and get stuff done. So I eventually got up, and that tiredness carried on with me all day. I felt like I had anemia, and I had about 30% of my normal energy levels. I felt like most people say when they after their first week or two when they get infected, it was like like that. I felt like I had this virus so all over again. I'm like, well, what else could it be? I mean, is it the lingering ramifications of the long-term damage in my lungs that is echoing and rippling through me here and there in different waves? Like, why? You know, I don't have pneumonia. I have this dry cough. It's a dry pain in my lungs. I don't feel any kind of liquid building up in my lungs at all. Um, I don't feel anything like that. I had been using for 2 days before these essential oils that I was putting in my nose and I was putting around my pillow, which was not a very wise move. I learned the hard way to be very careful with those things. But this is like, you know, got a mixture of cinnamon oil and bark and cinnamon leaf and eucalyptus, and all these things are basically antivirals, and they're very powerful and they work. And also I had tea tree in there, which is another antiviral, and all of these things were synergistically helping. I felt a lot better taking those. Like I said, it was day 40 I started feeling ill. Somewhere between day 40 and I think it was day 45 that I started using these essential oils, and I suddenly felt this relief in my lungs. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. After putting it in my nose, and I'm like, this is great. So I put it all over my pillow, and I put more in my nose the next day, and then I started getting this incredible pain in the sinuses and in my throat, which was lingering just a little bit today. And I guess this essential oil was a little overkill. Um, the only other time I felt that sensation, which was one of tonsillitis in my throat and in my nose, was when I was inhaling onions, just chewing on raw onions and then breathing the fumes deep into my lungs. It caused this similar scratchy feeling and pain in my throat. The same as this oil. So I mean, I'm not going to be using that oil to that extent, and I'll have to empty this nebulizer because I did put some in my nebulizer. I was inhaling it that way. There's only like a drop or two in there anyway, so it's not huge. I'll see how I respond, but Anyway, so basically, after all this, I'm like, well, my MCT oil isn't really doing the same effect. It's not having the same effect. So I'm searching for other solutions. Well, these oils helped for a day or a couple days, and then I started getting the ramifications of using it in the quantities I was using. So I'd say, like, just be careful if you're going to do it. Do it in small amounts and dilute it. Um, I'll have a link in the description to the two products I used. Both of them are excellent. There's probably some of the best antiviral, probably among the best antiviral essential oils you can get in the world. Okay, and there's a combination, and there's at least 3 or 4 antiviral compounds in just one of these bottles. Three different or 4 different plants in one bottle. You can get. They're cheap. They're like $9. That'll last you forever. And you can order them from the United States. If you live in the States, maybe you can order across the border. But they're helpful, definitely helpful. Anyway, so I started thinking, well, what else can I do? I guess, I started thinking I'll go back to colloidal silver because this stuff works and it kills this virus. And so I started inhaling it deep into my lungs and using this spray bottle. And before when I was using colloidal silver on day like 15 to day 20, I was getting pain in my lungs. Well, I'm not getting that pain in my lungs that I was getting before. So it seems to me that I've already knocked that virus out in the lung mostly. Um, so maybe it's just in my blood and attacking hemoglobin there. I can feel pain in my back. It could be hiding in the kidney. I don't really know. But after inhaling all this oil or this colloidal silver last night, I noticed a big change in my lymph system. I noticed a change in my the back of my head, in my brain. This virus seems apparently it invades the brainstem. There's an 89% chance that it does, because both SARS and MERS were found in the brainstem of patients, and 89% of the genome is the same. So there's an 89% chance that this virus stays dormant in the back of in your brainstem in the back of our head, just like herpes stays in the dorsal phalange nerve, I think they call it, in the spinal cord, in the spine, in the back of the body, and chickenpox stays in the lower dorsal nerves in the base of the spine, where it can stay dormant sometimes for up to a lifetime. You get it once when you're a kid, and for the rest of your life, it's just sitting in your spinal nerve dormant. Well, the SARS has been found to be in our brainstem. Well, if it's because it's neuroinvasive potentially, quite likely, then it could potentially end up living in the back in the brainstem, and that means it could likely turn into something similar to herpes or chickenpox, where it stays in the body and becomes less harmful over time and evolves to be a persistent virus and viral infection that can really stick around. And on a rare occasion, a person will become contagious without even knowing it, spreading it through similar mechanisms we already do very easily, having simple cold-like or zero symptoms, and then passing it around, and then but by then it should have adapted. Hopefully, what scientists are projecting is that because it's such a new virus, it's so new to the human body, that it's going to slowly but surely adapt to the body, and it's going to change the body is going to change the way it fights it, and it's going to mutate and mutate until eventually it causes very little harm, or it causes harm for a little while and then becomes dormant. So I mean, we're this is all new territory. Haven't been here in 100 years. I suspect it'll be similar to other, uh, you know, pandemics. It'll last maybe a couple years until we figure out how to deal with this thing, or it mutates to the point where we're able to deal with it properly. But nobody's safe at this point. It doesn't matter. I mean, look at the U.S. military has had to shut down 4 of their aircraft carriers. They're going to have to shut them all down, it looks like. France has had to shut one down. It shut down NATO's military campaigns all around the world. It's brought the whole world. I mean, I'm not just singling out the death machines and the rape and murder going on around the world that's being shut down because of this virus that's going around, but you know, it's happening all. We're all equally affected in some way or another. But it's brought there's nobody who's safe from this. There's no man, rich or poor, who isn't potentially able to get infected by this virus because it is mutating constantly. And when a virus is mutating, that means there is no real treatment for it except for your immunity and your body's ability to deal with it. And there are tricks and things like colloidal silver and hydrogen peroxide. And hydrogen peroxide, that's another one I'm using. I recommend a combination of both. I've got another video I'll insert here, and you can see what happens when you mix the two. This colloidal silver was like yellow yesterday. The bottle looked yellow, and then I added H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, like 6 to 7, 8 drops. Suddenly it turned white, clear, because it separated all the particles. It made the colloidal suspension even more colloidal. So I got my silver here. My camera. And I'm gonna pour it in here. You'll see the color of it. I want you to see it now. I was actually blown away how much of a change there was in the color. See that gold color, that golden tint to it? It's like urine almost. It's like golden. I hold it up to the light. You see it there. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious it's a golden color. And I can see it with my own eyes. I saw it with my own eyes, but I wasn't prepared for what I was about to see with my own eyes when I added hydrogen peroxide into the mix. So this is just 3%. I don't know if you can see that. 3% hydrogen peroxide. All we're gonna do is pour in just a small amount. I try to get as small amount as I possibly can. Oh, did I get some in there already? It's kind of hard to juggle all these things at once here. Hang on, see if I can line up the camera. I'll just look through the camera. How about? That's a little easier. There it is. Okay. There. I think that should be enough. We'll see. Now watch. Watch as the color changes. Takes a little while. I'll try to add a little bit more. This is my other silver. This is the same stuff right here. And it's basically crystal clear. It's kind of hard to see because there's a label on it, but the color ain't yellow. It was the same color. It was this yellow. I'm gonna add a bit more of this H2O2. There it goes. That's a good amount. I'd say it's probably about equivalent to what I had before, and it's changing quickly. I can tell. Certainly has like a darker tinge to it still, but you can tell it's getting lighter. Let's see if you can see that yet. Can you see the difference? There, it's starting to go clear. It's almost perfectly clear. Well, that's the screen, my monitor. So we'll go back here again. Up to the light. Do you notice the huge color change? It's like, it used to be bright urine red, almost yellow, I mean, looking at it up there. And now it's just like clear. It shows you just how much the kind of like, that's the glow of the lamp up there that makes it look slightly yellower. That's a pretty white light up there, LED. See, it's pretty much clear now. I hold it up to the light. You see it there. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious it's a golden color. And it's basically clear. So like, I'll put it back down where it was. My table is a little bit
Weird. It looks clear in my eye, but not on the camera. Go. It looks a bit more clear to me there. Yeah. It was basically yellow before, and now you can see right through it. It's completely clear. So there you go. There's goes to show just how important it is and useful it is to where am I? To use H2O2 in making your colloidal silver suspension even more colloidal. It makes it smaller. It shrinks down the particle size so that and it spaces the particles out. Basically, it's spacing them all apart, so it's a very high colloidal suspension. And instead of them all being concentrated, because they tend to like to clump together, and that's what creates the color. But when you put the H2O2, it spreads them apart and it breaks down their particle size and smaller to the point where light doesn't even change color. It looks basically clear and see-through, and then you have like some of the smallest possible particle size for your colloidal silver that you can get, as far as I'm aware.
Is very important. So I guess the two of the best treatments, or three, I would say definitely MCT oil. It'll help lubricate lungs. It'll help lubricate the damaged tissue in there with beautiful lubricating oil that can go in and soothe the pain and help to heal the damage. Colloidal silver will knock that virus out in your lung. H2O2 will knock out that virus in the lung. If you look at the scientific literature, there's science that says 0.5% hydrogen peroxide will kill corona. Okay. Now, it's not, I mean, that's on surfaces. So if you have it in your lung, it's the surface of your lung, it's the lung tissue and your lung tissue that'll have this virus just on the surface all throughout the lung. So what you want to do is you want to inhale that 3 or 4 times, 6 times a day. I'll put links in the description so you can research that. So there's 3 treatments: colloidal silver, H2O2, MCT oil. Those 3 are, as far as I can tell, like the best. Now for inflammation, Wobenzym is amazing. That's huge. And vitamin C is amazing as well for that and for healing the tissue, actually healing damaged lung tissue. You want to get on that as soon as possible. If you have and you start feeling anything going on in your lung. But if you do colloidal silver and you're spraying that into your lungs, into your nasal cavities as well, if you start feeling any flu-like symptoms, you can knock that virus out immediately. Okay. And a lot of people suggest that the hydrogen peroxide method works most of the time, but occasionally the virus can get by that. It depends on how soon you knock it out. You want to get that hydrogen peroxide in the lung as soon as possible. So you want to make sure you have the device ready that you carry with you, you take everywhere you go. Good thing to do after you go to town, to work, to the hospital, wherever you're working. Do that every time, and when you get home, do it there. Do it every day anyway. If you've already been infected, take it every day. Do it as much as you want, as much as you feel comfortable. And what I'll be doing is mixing like half hydrogen peroxide with half colloidal silver. Like colloidal silver will just go in and it'll go even deeper into the lung tissue, and it'll kill off viruses there, and it'll also get into the bloodstream, and it'll kill viruses in the bloodstream. So, and I'm feeling right now, again, right in this area as I'm talking, just this pain starting to build up right here. And fading. And it's sour. There are some mudras that I found that do help with these things. If you look up this particular mudra, I don't even know the name of it. It's the Brahma mudra. And this one is for allergies. It's for lung conditions. It's for bronchial and for bacterial, fungal, viral, in particular, and for balancing the intestinal flora and the flora all over your body, on the skin surface and everywhere. And it will help it to balance if you have an over infection of candida. I found particularly it works best with the thumb on the side of the finger, like you see here. And then you wrap the other finger around. like that. Okay, so you get this, you tuck this finger in nice and deep here, and then boom, you just tap these two together. That is actually really healthy and helpful for lung conditions, flus, colds. Um, I believe it would probably help in viruses. It certainly helps in with bronchial. I've noticed, like I, for example, had a stick of incense, and I had this allergy or sort of like sensitivity to smoke. If the smoke went up into my nose, it would just cause me, I could barely breathe. Well, I stuck this incense under my nose while I was doing this mudra. I was able to breathe the smoke directly up my nose without any problem suddenly, and it was going into my lungs and everything. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. I kind of go into the shock where I can't breathe in or out. It's just like, whoa. But it didn't happen when I was doing this mudra. It was so powerful. It was mind blowing. It showed me just how incredibly powerful the body is for healing and treating itself in various conditions. What I'd recommend for people, especially if you're Kundalini awakened or not, but is to test out different fingers, and take your time and look at and see how your body responds to various. How does not just your body but your fingers? So listen to your finger. Like for me, if I do this one right here, I feel this pain in the back of my finger right here. And I looked up this mudra and I did some research. I think it's the Prafarti mudra or something like that. And this one has to do with healing organs, speeds up organ repair. Okay, this one has to do with anemia. This one, on my right hand, I started doing this because I felt like this pain in here. It was like almost like, ow, there's something going on here when I do this. What happened? And so I started doing that every day. And then I looked up, when I found out that basically this corona causes anemia. Well, this is one of the main mudras there are for dealing with anemia, and this one and this one. There's also, this one I found even more useful. So it's similar. You're doing that, and you're also doing half of this other mudra, the Brahma mudra for healing lung conditions. Doing that, and you're doing the hemoglobin at the same time. This one also balances mood, and it allows you to deal with difficult circumstances and cope with things and allow yourself to be able to face anything without resistance, sort of. Basically, without fear or without judgment or attachment. It really does help people to overcome it. And as I'm doing this right now, feeling all that nastiness in my third chakra area here in my stomach, between the lung and my stomach, my solar plexus. I'm feeling it all gas out and bubble out just by holding this mudra. Okay, so this one here does help with anemia. This one especially as well, like for energy levels, it'll boost your energy. My gut's saying no, don't do this one right now, but whatever. I mean, saying so. Try and experiment with these mudras and see how they treat you. They might help you, and if you have nothing else to rely on, if you have no money, if you have no medicine, if you have nothing except for your heart, your mind, and your spirit, and your fingers, you'll try anything that works, and these things can help. Just listen to your body and follow your heart. So right now I'm feeling pain in my upper back area. Not extreme or anything. This Kriya helps. Feeling something going on in my brainstem that I've never felt before. It feels like that virus might even be in the brainstem. It's a weird sensation. Yeah, and there's a good chance that this is true, that the virus does infect the brain stems just like SARS, the other coronaviruses, SARS and MERS, because they found in people who require hospitalization and who require ventilation, they could not spontaneously breathe on their own. Spontaneously breathe. They had to consciously breathe. They had to be constantly focused on their breath, and if they weren't, or if they fell asleep, they would just stop breathing, because the virus attacks the brain's autonomic nerve functionality, breathing functionalities. It's your part of your brain that just does it automatically without you having to think about it. That's why a lot of people have to be put on respirators, and that's why I felt 2.5 weeks in or so, 2 weeks in, this feeling. If I go to bed now, I'm not going to wake up. If I fall asleep, I'm not going to wake up. I have to stay awake and conscious. And so I did. I got up and I was pacing all night, and I walked around my house for hours and hours, for 10 hours, till I finally felt like, I just intuitively, like, I'll be okay. So if you're Kundalini awake and if you're having troubles with that, you have, or if you even believe in God or anything, I mean, you can pray to the divine. I like to use mantras, so this is another technique to program the subconscious to always breathe no matter what, through various extra nerve functions and programming you can inject into the brain through mantras. I will breathe perfectly constantly, and I am, this is like, as I'm doing that mantra, I'm projecting intention. You know, I will breathe perfectly no matter what. The divine has got my back and ensure I'm breathing no matter what. I am programming my subconscious to breathe, make sure I breathe no matter what, whether I'm awake or asleep. You can program yourself to be able to breathe no matter what. I know a lot of you guys don't believe in that. That's awesome. Do whatever you want. I don't care. But I know this works, and I know it worked for me, and I know it works for a lot of circumstances. If you watch some of my other videos on mantras, sacred words, actually, I have a video on sacred words. You can learn a little bit more about the power of mantra and how they can actually really help change your circumstance. Power words, I think they call it. Kundalini power words. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, that's great. Do whatever you want with that. And beautiful. So I basically I'm gonna just change. I'm changing my treatment. So I will be using, for now anyway, I will be using a nebulizing MCT oil. I will be inhaling again. I'm redoing my colloidal silver treatment, and on top of that, I'll also be doing, every single day, I'll be inhaling hydrogen peroxide. I'll also be taking vitamin C. That'll help speed up the repair of the tissue and help with the body antioxidant. Also, yeah, I'm taking things like spirulina, helps with anemia. Honey helps with anemia. Molasses, blackstrap molasses, helps with anemia like symptoms. As soon as I started eating honey yesterday, first thing in the morning, my throat cleared up for a few minutes. And then it just kind of was lingering, and it came and went all day, but I could tell there was some positive benefit from that. These things I'm just going to keep going with it, and BHT, I'll be taking BHT, and I'll be taking my Wolbenzyme until I run out. And when I run out of that, that should last me another 30 days, at least 30 to 60 days. And that's a lot of money. And hopefully I'll have if I need to get more of that, I'll have the finances I need, but I'm already in debt. Like I put $450 on my card. I don't have, so, and that's due in a couple weeks here. But the Canadian government is offering various things, so I should be able to get on some kind of income assistance. If I can get on that, that'd be very helpful. If not, where there's a will, there's a way, and the divine will take care of a person if you have enough faith and you believe in that. And we can take care of ourselves. If you don't have faith in that, there's always something. There's always something for someone, and a way out for all people. And so I love all people. I love you, whether you're religious or you're not, you believe in God or you don't. I understand. I care about all of you as much as anyone, and you're as precious as anybody else. I don't care what religion you're from. I don't care what your spiritual background is. If you're a human being, that's what matters to me. It's what's in your heart and mind, and how you treat others, how you love, quality of your heart. That's what matters most to me. So anyway, I don't know what else to say. I think I basically covered everything here. I'm feeling amazing today. I feel good. I'm back is a little bit sore. I'm hungry to eat. But I took 20 Wobenzym last night before I went to bed to make sure that there's be no swelling today. This will last me a while, and I'll keep you guys informed. I'm going to let you know what's happening, how I feel, the various other treatments, if I have any worsening symptoms or improvements, breakthroughs. I encourage you to look into this essential oils. Look into the cinnamon oil. I've heard of people who had a violet lung infection coming on. Sounds like COVID-19. Okay, that's what it did to me. They just inhaled some cinnamon, right? And the cinnamon knocked it out within 5 minutes, or something like that. She said it basically knocked the virus, just the fumes of the cinnamon oil. Okay. Uh, during the Spanish flu, 1918, workers who worked in cinnamon factories, none of them died of this virus, right? Of the virus going around, and there is a great investigation and research that went into it as a result of that to find out what the hell's going on, and they found out that cinnamon deactivates 99.99% of viruses. So I mean, and I imagine it obviously is the same thing with this corona. It helped this women or gentlemen used it. So check that out. There's a links in the description for all of the information here, and pass this information, share it. Another one that I've been using that I haven't really mentioned much before is BHT, butylated hydroxytoluene. What a beautiful name! Isn't that just kind of like an aphrodisiac? Just amazing, butylated. Wow, I've never heard anything quite like that. Yeah, I basically, after hearing that name, I just thought I could not resist thinking about buying this, so I got myself some BHT, butylated, my friend, beautiful. And I've been using this stuff. This is powerful. This is one of the most powerful antivirals on the planet. It is unbelievable, unbelievably powerful. It's better than almost any pharmaceutical antiviral that exists out there that you can get by big pharma. It does better, and it has fewer side effects of any kind of pharmaceutical grade antiviral that's out there, and it works. And what I found is that this at around 900 milligrams, 800 to 1,000, but certainly about 900 milligrams for my body weight, worked perfectly. And on days when I was really feeling ill, like I felt like the virus, on day 40, like I say, it's suddenly I got hit heavy, and my lungs swelled up, my back started hurting, and I started getting what felt like cytokine storms happening again in my lungs. So I think it was that, or it was just the long-term damage that I had received from this virus was for whatever reason, suddenly coming up. Maybe my prayers and mantras and other things I was doing stopped being effective because I hadn't done them in a while. I don't know. But I think the Divine also is using me as like a test dummy for others' sake so that you can learn from me and basically see what works, okay? So this thing I took on day 40-ish, yeah, 40, that night. I started feeling all this inflammation in my lungs, so I upped my dose. I was taking normally around 250 to 300 milligrams of this a day, my body weight, and I decided, well, let's try upping the dose, as they do recommend if you have herpes or some other virus that's really flamed up, like where you're having an issue, okay? And it's showing up, okay? So you take and you double the dose or triple it or whatever. Some people recommend even up to 1.5 grams. I took 900 milligrams. And within about 15 minutes, all of my symptoms, all of my lung pain, all my back pain went away. Okay? It didn't do that all the time. Some days varied. But this stuff worked. And suddenly, for 24 hours, after taking 900 milligrams for more than 24 hours, all of my symptoms went away again. Okay, and this stuff also slows down your aging by around 25%. It's an antioxidant, it's anti-cancer, it's anti-carcinogenic, and it basically goes through your body, goes into your fat, it's stored in your fat tissues, and because it's oil soluble, and it slows your aging, and it protects, and it dissolves the outer lipid on almost all viruses. And I'm gonna just pull up a article for you. Okay, so BHT has blood thinning effect. So people who are, have already are on blood thinning medications and things might want to consider what's going on here. But I mean, this can save your life from corona. So I mean, weigh in and balance out the risk factor. Cancer, it protects from and reduces the risk of the majority of cancers. I don't understand all this. Panic disorders, hiccups, autoimmune diseases. That's nice. Migraines, headaches, insomnia. It certainly changed my sleep. I noticed that more than anything. I started getting kind of like weird headaches, I thought, but not headaches, just like weird pains. But that could have been the virus. It was like on the skull and just isolated little areas. And it also felt like it was in the cerebral spinal fluid. Weird. Virus does get into that too, by the way. Well-being improved. Nice. Life extension. It can be used to extend lifespan because of its special antioxidant properties. And a lot of sources, scientific even, were suggesting about a 25% increase in lifespan. Okay. Protection against lipid envelope viruses. Look at this, man. Including influenza, all strains, including bird flu. Now, I've read that people who do take BHT for influenza, they take it at the first sign of it, take it twice, and they never get sick more than like a few minutes. They basically knock it out, and they never end up getting sick for long because this BHT knocks it out. Epstein-Barr, I don't know, even Cytomegalovirus, glavovirus, hepatitis B and C, rubella, I'm not even sure what that is, human HIV, zoster, which is chickenpox and shingles, SARS, MERS, other coronaviruses, Varrola virus, smallpox, Ebola, animal lipid, including swine fever, swine flu, canine fever, bird flu, Newcastle disease. Like it's like all of these freaking. Basically, there isn't a virus out there apparently that it actually doesn't affect. It seems to affect all viruses, and it seems to do a better job than almost any other, if not any other antiviral that exists. It is also natural. They make it synthetically, but if you look at what's going on in nature, butylated hydroxytoluene is emitted by fungi naturally occurring in olives during their pre-processing storage for improving oil stability. So Mother Nature is using BHT to improve the as a preservative for oil. That's what it is, and that's what it's sold as, and that's what it's the most widely used preservative in the world. This stuff, okay? And you can add it to like oils, you can add it to butter, you can add it to your like if you're making homemade salad dressing, throw a little bit of this BHT in there, as long as there's oil and fat, plenty of oil and fat in the substance you're making, and it'll improve its lifespan. It'll extend. It's a preservative. They sell it in all kinds of foods. So, and it's a preservative in the body as well, and for your own fat, for your own organs, and for all sorts of function in the body. The only issue I've had with it so far is a little bit of liver pain. If I take too much, if I take over a gram, which they say never go over a gram, if I take a gram or more, sometimes I get pain in my liver. You have to. That's why they say to work up very slow. Start at 100 or 200 milligrams. Work up, say 50 a day to like whatever your body weight. You have to calculate out the body weight. It's like I don't even know, 1 gram per kilogram or something like that. Not quite. Like 0.2 or 0.1. I think 0.1 grams per kilogram. Something like I don't know. You look it up. For me, it's 300 milligrams I take, and that's it. But because I was going through so many things, I was making sure I'm getting the extra amount, that I'm getting more, maybe even than I need. And that stuff is amazing. This stuff is possibly one of the best defenses, if not the number one defense you could have. I'd say next to taking hydrogen peroxide and colloidal silver into the lung, into the throat, into the nasal cavities. That'll knock out the virus there. In the eyes, you could spray this in the eyes. Actually, with hydrogen peroxide, you might want to be careful with that, but colloidal silver is safe. And MCT oil. I mean, that's coconut oil. There's nothing safer than that. Well, so that's all. And just wish you the best and much love. I think this virus is Mother Nature's reaction to 5G technology, and it's helping to the genome of all life to adapt or die, basically, or adapt is the ultimate goal, and bring in balance here. It's infecting tigers now. I mean, it's infected cats, dogs. Now it's infecting tigers, bats, obviously, humans. It has the I fear it may have the potential to infect all of higher life, including birds. And if we start seeing that, we might end up seeing birds dropping dead left, right, and center. They already did wherever they're testing 5G. So, I mean, they're finding birds, hundreds of them, flocks of them, lying dead on the ground. Chances are they're going to get this virus too. And people are going to be like, oh, we just found all these birds suddenly have this virus now. They're not going to, until people wake up and bridge and see the connection between these two, there's not going to be any sincere or real change in this viral thing going around. People are, there's a lot of people who think, yeah, 5G is bad on its own, but it doesn't have anything to do with this virus. I mean, they don't know. I don't even know if hopefully science one day will be able to figure this out and explain it. But really, these things are cutting edge. This is cutting edge information. It's cutting edge. And the guys who are doctors who are even mentioning this on YouTube are being shut down. Like doctors and scientists and people who had hundreds of thousands of views on their videos are being removed because it goes against YouTube's kill all life on Earth and the entire food chain and commit suicide policy, basically, which is what it is, which is what it's doing, because their lives are at risk. Everyone's lives are at risk. People are just idiots. They're being completely retarded here. Do not understand this. This is not a hoax. This is a reality. This is what's happening. People might not understand all the intricacies of it, but it's no hoax. I had this virus in me, and it almost killed me. And I'm on day 48, and it's still affecting me. So, I mean, it's not like some little thing. And people who haven't had it are spreading a lot of different disinformation, or they might have had it so light that it was very minimal for them. They're spreading BS, a lot of BS, and a lot of disinformation. They're putting people's lives at risk, just like the U.S. government said it's all a hoax, and they're just doing the same thing, and they're spreading all this BS that's putting people's lives at risk. And I mean, Darwin Awards for you guys. You're just, you better be careful. I mean, on one level, you could say it's taking people's faith and putting it somewhere higher, so they're not fearful about this thing or worried about this virus. There's a difference between reality and truth and fake and fear and just knowing the truth. A lot of people attribute just anything to do with honesty and truth as fear mongering or whatever, which is total bullshit. I mean, if you can't handle the truth, then you can't handle the truth. It's that simple. But the truth stands alone. Whether or not we want to believe in it, it's there, and it is a reality. Okay. So yeah, this is basically something that people need to look into, and science needs to look into, and try and figure out and understand these things. There's one scientific approach that you could take to determine. There's one major thing that you could use scientifically, and that is overlaying the maps of wherever 5G has been erected in this world and wherever COVID-19 has infected people, and compare the results there in real time in a huge independent global study to monitor and see what the effects are going on everywhere around the world. In real time intelligence sharing from every place around, every country around the world set up that is globalized and independent, and everything. It's just you could have all in one system where you monitor what's going on in these various countries that's causing sudden outbreaks or causing this country to have it worse than that country, or by whatever. And if we start seeing new waves coming up and being hit even harder, is it look at the maps, and the maps already do show wherever there's 5G, this virus is infinitely worse. It's infinitely worse. In Spain, where the mortality rate is like 12% of reported cases, reported infections, and reported deaths. It's 12% compared to other places where it's reported the same. It's only like 2% in Germany. Other places even less. So I mean, if you look at the average and you understand all that, and you understand basically the reporting is going on quite similarly, there might be a margin of error around the world, but it's happening everywhere. There is a huge discrepancy between certain countries' in death rates. Even though their population numbers are much smaller, like Spain is quite small, yet they have this super high death rate. China is huge, 1.4 billion people, and they managed to contain it and bring it down to nothing. Well, and they're also one of the first people that brought in 5G, but they cracked down very powerfully, and they did a masterful job at controlling it. And they might have shut down all their 5G cell towers for all I know, and they might be very careful about what they're releasing to the public, because Hawaii is a huge conglomerate that's making all billions of dollars. This war that the United States has been waging against Hawaii might have more of a military undertone to it, maybe, if they're smart enough to look into this kind of thing. Because, this 5G could be used as a weapon of war during war. And they could fry your entire population and target you with these various 5G towers and things, and fuck you up completely and destroy your body from the inside out or outside in. What I don't understand is they say this, that it cannot penetrate your body. Well, then how the hell is anyone's cell phone's gonna work or anything? Because you just turn around, suddenly the beam's gonna have to go through your body, or won't be able to. What? Then you lose your connection? Like what? Like what? It doesn't go through your body? Really? Okay. I see it's going through the walls. In my parents' house, they have 5G there, and it's penetrating the walls and the wood. Is what you're telling me? It's not going to go through the body? It doesn't make any sense. It will. It's going to penetrate. I imagine most people, it's just going to weaken the signal significantly as it destroys your bodies, our bodies. So I mean, this stuff, I suspect we're going to start seeing it in all forms of animal life, and we're going to start seeing it getting worse and worse and spreading to all kinds of like mice. Even it could infect mice to the point where they're spreading it all over the place. And if 5G becomes too prevalent too quickly, and it's not spread out over decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, however long it takes. I mean, you got to realize the frequency and resonance that the genome of all of life was born into over billions of years of evolution. It's been the same thing, and it's changing very gently, and over, maybe here and there you have some significant changes depending on certain planetary alignments and astronomical changes and star, like a supernova and all kinds of things going on in the cosmos constantly. But, suddenly we come here and we're just blanketing our entire womb of evolution, 4 billion years of this particular frequency. Suddenly it's changed, and we've jolted it and changed it to something completely different in just like a decade or a year. Like suddenly 5G is like, whoa, up all over the planet after 4 billion years of not having any 60 gigahertz frequency. The Earth is running at constantly 7 hertz, 7.5 hertz. Okay, that's 7.5 hertz. That's like 7 oscillations per second or something like that. So suddenly we were going to 6 billion. 6 billion. That was never there for billions and billions of years. Suddenly we go from 7 to 6 billion overnight. And you expect that all of these frequencies have an effect on cellular tissue. It has an effect on DNA. It has effect as a resonant effect on all of life and all of creation. So of course it's going to affect things in ways that science needs to look at. We need to research all these things. Otherwise, we could be putting the entire biosphere at risk. And that's what the 5G space appeal It's created and signed by thousands of scientists all around the world that clearly states that it could permanently damage our biosphere. So, I mean, and this is no fucking joke. And so people need to keep an open mind, and people need to spread this, and we need to do anything and everything we can to shut down this 5G. And I'm just going to leave you with this video of a gentleman who took out 5G towers, and just so you can kind of get a little bit of better idea just how important life on Earth really is. And I just want to say thank you, guys. I want to thank you for listening. I wish you a much love, many blessings, absolute faith, freedom of fear of want and fear of loss and want of gain. You know, freedom of panicking, because panic never really does help people. You know, you want to make sure you're thinking ahead and thinking of others, and recognizing we're all here together, and to help and love your neighbor, help and love one another. We're in this together, and we'll make it through this. This too shall pass. And I'm here. I'm on day 48. I've been going through a lot more stuff than most people maybe understand. And yet I'm, you know, strong, and I am faithful, and I believe, and I have absolutely nothing but faith in humanity, nothing but faith in Mother Nature, and her ability to respond to all of these things, for us to respond to all these things, and to change and adapt in the ways that are necessary in order for us to live in harmony with this planet, and with each other as well, and not being a psychopathic killer, eugenicist, and all this. There's a natural and healthier way to bring balance, and that is just through mindfulness, love, and compassion, and empathy for your fellow man. The more we think of others, the less we're going to be caught up in our egos, fighting for our own at the expense of everything and everyone else, everywhere else. We need to just foster our empathy and our love for fellow man and for all of life on Earth, and by doing so, and you know, we'll have more, just better for this planet, by not wanting things you don't need, you know, by not having more than of what you think you need than you need. Why do you have 20 cars, 20 trucks, 20 pairs of shoes, this and that? You know, you don't need all this extra junk. And here we are, and we just keep consuming and doing all this stuff at the expense of the planet. And it complicates our mind collectively and individually, you know, having all this excess. That's why I personally love to live as simply and frugally as I possibly can. And I think all of us should be living that way, just out of respect for Mother Nature and the planet, and for each other. And anyway, it's not a bad thing, and you can live like a king that way and not be caught up in this materialist dogma that we are living in today, that's just worships materialism like a god, like a religion, like a dogma that blindly thinks and sees that as the only way forward, is to have more. The more I have, the happier I am, whatever. But just be smart, you know, be smart, be wise, live from your heart. And I just wish you all well, and I hope you enjoy this video. I hope this video has been helpful to you in some ways, and please subscribe, and I'll come back soon and have more videos for you in the future. So take care. Love you so much. Goodbye.
Be there for us, your firefighters call the Board of Supervisors. They're having to reach out to the public to stop them from getting attacked with mentally ill, neurological damage causing cell phone towers, folks. This is from August 22nd, 2010. Firefighters cannon fodder in cell phone tower scandal. All right. Firefighters say no to cell. This is 2010, folks. The International Association for Firefighters has passed a resolution for a moratorium. 2010, so look at how long this has been going on. They've been getting attacked since 2010 and before, and it's the International Association. It's just not a local, it's not a state, not a nation, international. We oppose the use of fire stations as base stations for towers and or antennas for the conduction of cell phone transmissions until a study with the highest scientific merit and integrity on health effects of exposure to low-intensity radio frequency microwave radiation is conducted, and it's proven that sightings are not hazardous to the health of the members. Great risk to our first responders. They don't care about us. Remember, soldiers are called sold to die. That's why they're called soldiers. That's why they're given dog tags. Kissinger called them useless eaters. They're just their dogs. So are the firefighters. That's how they look at them, folks. That's how they look at them. So the plans are to have millions of these cancer-causing, neurological, damaging cell phone towers, small cells, every 1,000 feet. But then there's guys like John Patterson. He was a senior telecommunications officer for Telstra in Australia, responsible for the deployment of thousands of cell phone towers. Quote, when I discovered that the towers emit microwave radiation 50,000 times higher than the legal limit, I sent a report into head office pleading them to do something. I was fired within 48 hours. So to get the word out, I took my friend's tank and destroyed 8 tower sites. I was sentenced and served 20 months in jail, and I don't regret it. People need to know my story. And he's out doing it again as well. We all need to be John Patterson, folks. We all need to be John Patterson before it's too late. The singularity takes over, and we have no control over our bodies, minds, and spirits. Checkmate humanity. Speak out, be heard, plain truth out. Peace.